What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the best player on each NBA team from Texas is European. As always, I am your host, Zach Cronin, and today we're going to be talking about Alperen Sengun. I think I can consider him European. I know that Turkey is technically a transcontinental country, but with Istanbul being the cultural and economic center of the country, being to the far east of the country, closer to Europe, I figure it's all right to categorize that as European. I'm literally yapping. It doesn't even play into the video. We're going to be talking about Alperen Sengun. The title of this might be a little misleading. It's probably going to be titled something like Alperen Sengun has arrived, in parentheses, film study, in brackets, 45 points versus the San Antonio Spurs. I know that NBA fans know about Sengun. I think, however, that this 45-point performance he had against the Spurs, against Victor Wembanyama, is going to expose him to a more casual player base. Because although Sengun is having a spectacular season, averaging like 21 and 9, is going to be one of the finalists for most improved player, I don't really know the type of name recognition that he has. I do know, however, that this dude can ball, and he's been balling all season. He was balling against Victor Wembanyama, and the Spurs became the youngest player to have 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 steals in a game. And it was just an all around spectacular performance from this young guy. The baby Jokic comparison is very real. However, I do think that Sengun will eventually shake himself of that nickname and establish a name for himself because his playstyle, while obviously takes bits and pieces from Nikola Jokic, there is more of a traditional influence in Sengun's game. And of course, it is very hard to compare anybody to Nikola Jokic because he's one of the most unique players that the NBA has ever seen. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get into this 45-point breakdown because there was a lot of good that I saw from Sengun. I feel that this was a great encapsulation of everything that he can do on the basketball court. And it further illustrated why he should be the Houston Rockets franchise centerpiece. I understand that Jalen Green is there, and I see a world in which the two of these guys coexist, but Sengun is pretty clearly to me the best young player on this Rockets team. So let's go ahead, let's get into it. Before we get into this, a little there is a bit of information necessary when you're going to be going up against Victor Wembanyama. I know that Wemby didn't exclusively guard Sengun throughout this entire game, but regardless, your play is going to be different than when you're matched up against someone who is not Wembanyama, and more specifically closer to your size. When you're being guarded by Wemby as a big, you have to be quick and you have to be decisive in your moves. Even still, Wemby is gonna impact a majority of your shots. He's gonna block a bunch of shots. I think he had like 5 blocks in this game against the Rockets. He's had like 800 blocks in the month of February alone. But that's not to say that you can't have an explosive game with him being guarded by him. It just takes a special kind of player and a special kind of center to be able to do that. I'm talking Embiid, Jokic, Sabonis, guys who are skilled and experienced enough to know how to attack these types of situations. And I think that this game showcased a lot of maturity for Sengun. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to get into it. His first bucket of the game, he's being guarded by Julian Champagnie. Wemby is going to come on the help. Now, the old adage is that when you're defending a player in the post, you want to give them the baseline. However, I don't know if I would necessarily want to do that as a smaller defender because it's already a mismatch. Chances are that Sengun is going to bully you into the basket and he's going to get an easy uncontested layup. Force him into the help. Maybe don't give up all this space right here, especially if you know that Wemby is going to come. Like, force Sengun into that double. Force him to get rid of the basketball. And then that little gap there, Sengun shoots it with a very solid spin move. He protects the ball. One thing I've noticed from him throughout this game is that he is very aware of where he is underneath the basket, and he knows that he has to protect this ball with his entire body in order for it not to get blocked. But this is just like the slightest space that Champagnie is given. You can see here he's also utilizing his arm to hook a little bit, but not so much so that it'll be called for an offensive foul. That is a very legal drop step right there. And this is what is going to be very prevalent throughout this game. There are going to be a handful of wacky shots that go in that just kind of leave you scratching your head. But overall, this was a very like fundamental and a very old school 45 from Sengun. Little pick and roll here with Jalen Green. Look at the hands that he showcases on this catch. This pass is way out in front, kind of where it was, yeah, definitely not the best pass. Almost gets stripped by Zach Collins, but still the ability to catch the ball, gather, absorb the contact as well. Very strong hands, but that strong hands that are also soft enough to be able to corral those types of passes. Anytime you're a guard, you're taught to put the ball at above knee level when throwing it to your big. Like you can't be delivering ankle level passes. You can't be delivering shin level passes because it's a lot for a big dude to go down and get those. Another screen here, double screen, just filling the open spot. This was one of those shots that is very Jokic influenced, to kind of just like throw it up and hope that it goes in, except this is a good shot for Sengun because when he catches, he stops, he plants, he gathers himself, and on the shot, like everything is straight, like everything is aligned. There is no lean one way or another. He's not square to the basket, but he's balanced. And when you're this close, you're 6'10", however tall he is. I think he's closer to 6'9", actually. Like you just, little push, throw it up off the square. As long as you're balanced, it's gonna make your shot way easier. Very solid offensive possession from Houston here. Jalen Green does a phenomenal job of beating his man with the through legs dribble, collapsing the defense, draws Wemby, still has Branham on him. This is Jetty Osman, I believe, who's not going to be able to close out properly on Jeff Green. Now, someone has to do something here. Keldon Johnson and Wemby should be communicating. Ideally, Johnson slides up and Wemby slides over into the corner to take away the Dylan Brooks three. Even still, Wemby does I don't want to say he does a great job, but he's like still within range. However, Sengun is too good of a player to give open space to, especially at around the free throw line area. If you want to be an elite scorer at some point, you have to find a way to develop some sort of mid range shot, whether it's a pull up jumper, whether it's a floater, whether it's a little push shot like this. This unlocks so much. And especially in Shengun's case, once he does develop a reliable 3-point shot, he's going to be actually unguardable. Like he'll be able to give 25, 26 points a night once he figures out how to make threes at like 34, 35%. But not the most egregious defensive breakdown, but yeah, someone has to be a little bit more decisive for the Spurs. I mean, Sengun, he knows he's not going to be able to attack Wemby at this spot, so he's like, fuck it, I'll just step into a floater. Like I always stress this in all the breakdowns that I've done, regardless of what caliber of player I'm looking at. One thing that's always prevalent is taking what the defense gives you. You don't want to overexert yourself on offense. That's, if offensive efficiency is, yes, about field goal percentage, true shooting percentage, stuff like that, but it's also the efficiency of how you get your buckets on the floor. If an easy shot is given to you, why complicate it? If you're being given a 15-foot floater, why try to drive on the guy who's bigger than you, who had more blocks than like 8 teams in the entire month of February? I want to take note of Wemby's positioning. This is what makes him such an incredible defender. The numbers that he's putting up, the 3 blocks per game, the 1.5 steals per game, whatever it is, it's not a fluke. Like this guy has legitimately elite defensive instincts. He understands how to play defense, not just NBA defense, just basketball defense in general. He's playing Sengun in the post. What does he do? He's trying to get as low as possible. As it stands right now, his shoulders are lower than Sengun. I talked about this. I forgot when I talked about this, but most of the time, low man is going to win. However, there is one huge downside of Wemby's size, and that is the fact that he's not going to be the quickest defender. But the trade off for that is he's super long. That it's the trade off. It's really difficult to be tall, long, and quick. Like once you get beyond 7 feet, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to maintain that type of lateral quickness. But even though he's going to get beat on this move by Sengun, I like the position that he starts in. He's playing him straight up. He's low, and he overextend. He leans forward just a little bit. So Sengun with this one dribble feels Wemby pushing along his left arm, and that is all the space that he needs to counter, drop step, and get a relatively uncontested layup. Also, take a look at Wemby's feet here. He is now out of position, and an elite post player will feel that, and they'll be able to spin off, shields the ball. He missed the initial shot, but got the tip. In. Just very fundamental post play right here. Much of the same with Zach Collins. This is just one of those goofy ass shots that you kind of just live with as a defender. But he's starting this. He's on balance. He's square. He's pointed towards the rim. This may look like a difficult shot, but I would not be surprised if he takes like 75 of these. If he practices like 75 of these shots per practice, with the coach who has the fucking pad and they got the broomstick extended and all that. So Sengun gets the rebound. I like this defense by Zach Collins. This is giving Sengun the baseline, where you use the baseline as an extra defender. The only thing I don't like his hands. His hands are low. His hands are on Sengun's body. I don't know if he's trying to get a reach in or something. I understand that this is a relatively even matchup in terms of physicals, but play with your hands up. One, you appear bigger to the defender. It's going to be more difficult for them to score over you when your arms are fully outstretched. And furthermore, you're less likely to be whistled for a foul if your hands are extended. If your hands are low, poking for the ball, Sengun can go up and draw a foul where the ref can see a reach in that may or may not have been there. So just put your hands up, and it would make this shot a little bit more difficult. And also, again, like you're allowing him to take multiple dribbles in the paint. Not a bad, not a bad defensive possession, but one that is a learning experience. Van Vliet, Sengun pick and roll. One thing I notice about Alperen is that he is a fantastic screen setter. Of course, shout out to Fred Van Vliet for also leading Sohan into the screen. That is a huge part of pick and roll offense that is sometimes forgotten about. I would say maybe 50-50. It's not always a bad screen. Sometimes it's just the point guard not taking the proper path to lead the defender into the screen. But still, like Sohan gets completely blocked off, and they're effectively playing 1-on-2 here. Also, take a look at the angle of Wemby's feet. It's going to be hard for him to turn around and contest this shot. He has to spin. He doesn't even get a contest on it. But also Van Vliet Van Vliet creating this space and forcing Wemby to guard him. This is Van Vliet taking a wide dribble, sucking in Wemby, and creating a lane for Sengun to cut. There's no one rotating over. Champagne's not in position to contest this, and it's an easy dunk. This is the benefit of having a veteran point guard like Fred Van Vliet is. I know that, he's getting like 50 M's or whatever it is, getting paid way above whatever his talent level. But this guy is a proven facilitator. He's a proven floor general. I think he's averaging like 8 assists a game. Still, all about decision making. So Van Vliet and Sengun are attacking at the same time. Sengun doesn't get all the way into the paint because it would get congested. He knows he's already made 1 or 2 shots from this area already. He's in rhythm. He's feeling it. You get the pass, immediately go up. There's no reason to take a dribble. You're already in position. Like you're gathering yourself, positioning yourself towards the basket. Easy floater. When I said this was an old school 45. This is what I meant. This is like fucking playing. This is playing with your back to the basket in like 1993. So Shangun sets this little brush screen, immediately establishes position, puts Wemby on his back, literally throws it back on Wemby. That is how you create space as a big playing in the post. You have to throw it back on your defender. There's no other way to go about it. But look at how he opens himself up. 2 feet in the paint. He's like 10 feet from the basket. 9 times out of 10 in elite center, which Shengun may not be now. I don't want to call him elite. I think he's very good, but like an all-star caliber center, an all NBA caliber center, which is where Shengun is projecting to be. These are the things that they do. So he gets the ball, looks one way, it's not there, spins. There is a little bit of a hook with the elbow. You can't see it. You can kind of see it here. Another one of those legal moves. You can, if you watch the highlight of his game on the NBA YouTube channel, you could see it more clearly. This is a legal. This is a legal move. This is just. It's pretty much like a rip through. I don't know. I don't think the rip through. I don't think a rip through is the. I don't even know what the fucking technical name is. This is a legal gather and just shielding the ball from Wemby. He gets it up on the glass as quick as he can, so that way if it does get blocked as a goaltend, but again, just the force, boom, sheds Wemby. And this is something that I think Wemby will begin to overcome the 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 more time he spends in the league. He's not strong enough to go up against NBA caliber competition quite yet. It's important to remember that he is still only 20 years old. He is still maturing as a human being. He's still biologically maturing. There will come a time where he is a stronger defender. It may, like, in terms of actual strength, in terms of like physical strength, he may not bulk up as much, but he'll put on enough weight and he will weight train enough so that way he can't get tossed around in the post like that. But still, the reason he is performing at this level is because he already has the physical tools and he already has the instincts. If strength is the only issue in your game as a 20-year-old defender in the NBA, I really wouldn't worry much about it. Spurs in a little bit of a zone here. How do you break the zone? Find the man in the middle. Good read by Dylan Brooks. Shengun catches, turns. When you are the zone breaker, like Shengun is here, you are this is perfect. This is ideal fundamental basketball. The catch and turn. Survey. What is Jabari Smith Jr. gonna do? What is Jalen Green gonna do? How is the defense going to approach this? You know you have a mismatch. You're the second biggest guy on the floor. I think Zach Collins is like an inch taller than he is. It's a one-on-one against a smaller guy, easy hook shot. This is also a benefit of having a very skilled center being the zone breaker because you don't have to compromise with size. You don't have to compromise anything in the game plan. You can play normally. You can play normally, which is huge for an offense. You can't see it, but this is a close game. 7 minutes left in the third. Alpi just put them up by 3. Like the catch, turn, one dribble, gather. It's so easy. This spacing is so bad. What the? I've been nothing but I've thrown nothing but praise so far to the Rockets to Shengun, but bro, this spacing, this is like this is like 1988 NBA spacing right here. You have 7 dudes in the paint. Okay, whatever. We're gonna and this. Okay, yeah. This is just a put back. But I love this screenshot right here. It's awesome. Shengun on the fast break, going downhill, one on one, easy. Zach Collins. He forces Zach Collins to. Oh, okay, let's do this again because I don't know my directionals apparently. So Shengun attacks left side, forces Collins to lean, spins back, easy. Like it's simple. Little shoulder, nothing crazy either. Sometimes if you throw that shoulder a little too hard, you extend a little too hard, you're putting yourself in the position to be called for a foul. But this is contact. This is basketball contact. Right spot, right time. You get yourself into the paint. Good cut by Jalen Green here. Good vision as well. Delivers a good pass. It's just a very solid possession for this young Rockets team. Before this play starts, the screen setting. Dude, this guy, Branham, gets stuck in El Paso on this screen. Look at look at look at that. And what's great about that kind of screen, and also kind of odd that the Spurs didn't recognize to switch off of it, even if it's not in their game plan. I think you, as the defensive anchor of this team, have to communicate. You have to communicate that because you're giving Shengun an open three here, and I know that he's a 30% shooter, but you cannot give him a warm up three. So there needs to be some level, and he hesitated on this too. He's like, I think in 2 years from now, this is an automatic triple from him. But yeah, a little bit. I don't even want to say it's a miscommunication. I think that maybe it just wasn't in the game plan. But as Wemby gets older, becomes more experienced, I think that Pop is going to pretty much allow him to be a Draymond Green kind of defender where, as I was saying, I think that as Wemby gets older, more mature, Pop is going to allow him to be more of like a Draymond Green on defense, where you operate in that middle linebacker role, where you may get a call from the coach, but if what you see on offense is better than what you're currently running on defense, it's going to be on you to call an audible and dictate to where your teammates have to go. So, maybe Wemby should have just called a screen right here. Take your chances with Fred Van Vliet one-on-one. There really isn't anywhere for him to go. Right now he does a good job of penetrating, but yeah, again, I don't want this to come off as it's just a dog shit defensive possession. Like miscommunications happen. And I do, as a coach, you do have to appreciate the effort of Branham fighting over the screen and fighting to get back into the play. This is just I'm kind of just like thinking out loud. This was just a filthy move. I mean, this is where I was talking about where Wemby is going to be at a quickness disadvantage sometimes, and every so often, like you're going to get got. This play and then that one other play in the first half were really the only times that Wemby was lost on a possession, which two instances in however many minutes he played, I think that's good. I would give him, a very solid like 8 rating in that regard. The recovery is still good, but again, he he's getting it thrown back on him. This is how Alpi creates the space necessary. He puts himself under the basket. Alpi does, and uses the basket as a shield to Wemby because if Wemby goes up and blocks this while it's inside the hoop, it's a goaltend. So just very, very solid understanding of playing in space, very good use of his body as well. This is as good of a contest as you're going to get from Wemby. Sometimes you just don't have it. Sometimes you get beat on offense. The attack on the pick and roll. Look at this man's positioning. He is only a little bit higher than Fred Van Vliet. Arms extended, trying to disrupt in the passing lane. The catch isn't clean. He recovers nicely, but Alpi just again puts him under the basket, and Alpi just puts him under the basket and finishes. It really is all about positioning when you're playing defense in the post. And unfortunately, a guy like Shengun, who's 3 years in the NBA, is just going to have a better understanding of that than a rookie. Regardless of if you're coming from a professional league in Europe or not, there is still like a knowledge gap between a 3 year pro and a rookie. All of these things, it may seem like I'm kind of picking on Wemby at this stage, and I really don't want it to come across that way. I think that Wemby did as good of a job as he could, but there are just times that you're going to get beat as a defender. You have to understand that, and you have to kind of move on. Another thing is that Wemby is very clearly taking the challenge of guarding Shengun down the stretch. you have to like that as a coach, regardless of if whether Pop wanted it or if Wemby wanted it. If you're like arguably the best defender in the league, you want to go up against the dude who is cooking right now just to see if you could stop him. And if you don't, you don't. If you do, you do. Look at how this possession starts out. Wemby is in a good athletic position. He's very low for a 7'3" guy. I mean, he's got to be like down to 6'6" right here. And good contest as well, but Sengun, two power dribbles. If any big gets two power dribbles into the paint, it's going to be a bucket. Gets Wemby under the basket, and this is still almost a block. I think it's going to be kind of hard to see, but that's an inch or two Wemby came away from blocking it. It's the positioning, the touch, the feel. Those were all on display from Sengun here. This was the final shot. Yeah. Only his second made three, but the dagger effectively. Van Vliet rejects the screen, draws two defenders, and yeah, exceptional performance from Sengun. There's really not more I can say about it. I think it was good overall defense as well from Wemby. The numbers may say otherwise. 11 of 20 Sengun was well guarded by Wemby. He scored 27 of his points when defended by Wemby, but it's just some of those. It was just one of those nights for Sengun, I think, where it didn't matter who you put on him, he was gonna have a huge night because all of the shots that he was hitting were because he knew where to position himself, how to attack this player on this specific possession. It was just a very overall high IQ performance from Alperen Sengun. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything that I'm associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. And with that, I will catch y'all in the next one.